We got to talk about the big news over the weekend that, well, it isn't exactly positive news. It's a bit of sad news, and normally we like to start the show off with a lot of fun stuff, but we lost Sabu over the weekend, a true innovator in professional wrestling. Whether you know it or not, a lot of the wrestling that you watch today was inspired by Sabu, whether they wrestle on Monday nights or Wednesday nights or Friday nights. So much of his innovations and his legacy can be seen in the modern product today. And as folks are listening to this, I want to give you a heads up that we're actually going to be getting together tomorrow morning with friends of the show, Al Snow, Rhino, Blue Meanie, and maybe a few surprise guests to come together and celebrate the career of a true innovator in the professional wrestling industry, Sabu. Head on over right now to our Podcast Heat YouTube channel at podcastheatwrestling.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications bell so you don't miss our live Sabu roundtable. It's happening tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to be live and taking your questions and sharing and celebrating some great Sabu memories. I know you didn't share the ring with Sabu, but you at least knew who Sabu was and knew what an innovator he was. And when we were talking with Jeff Jarrett earlier today, I think I've decided that he might be pro wrestling's first and most famous daredevil. Is that the right way to describe him?
I think it is, yeah, definitely. He and Rob Van Dam changed the business. There were a couple things that changed the business. I remember when Too Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit had that match in WCW around 90, whatever, 3, 4, 5, something like that. We hadn't seen anything like that. And people like, you got to be kidding me. And then all of a sudden you have it times 5 or 6 or 10, whatever it is, multiple, with Sabu and Van Dam. Those guys were freaking incredible. I considered Sabu a good friend. I got along well with Sabu. I never worked with Sabu. I wish I would have. In fact, me and Gerald Briscoe just did a thing with Brian Solomon, the Blood and Fire, about his uncle. One of the biggest draws in the history of the business. His uncle was unbelievable. Broke him in the right way. Sabu was a good dude. A really good dude. But a daredevil, that's the only way you can say it. That stuff he did with Onita in FMW in Japan in the early 90s, that was ungodly what he did. The stuff he did in ECW. And by the way, when you talk about, guys that flip and flop, Sabu and RVD always had a rationale behind what they did. So if you watch them, they do something, they dive over the ropes. The next week they do something, they run and they jump on the ropes and dive over. Then they put a chair there, they run and step on the chair and jump there. They put 2 chairs there. There was always, whether you called it consciously or not, they always had a rationale for what they did and a progression of what they did. It always made sense in some way, which is, a difference between guys who just go out there and want to do crazy stunts and guys who want to go out there and do crazy stunts that mean something. And Sabu did stuff that meant something.
I can't wait to talk about Sabu. We're going to be doing it tomorrow morning at podcastheatwrestling.com. And if you're looking for more Sabu talk, that's where you'll find it. I can't wait to talk about him. One of my favorites as a kid, I think ECW was built in large part on his back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you know him, Conrad?
I met him a few times. Yes.
We had the nicest, most respectful guy. Just a sweetheart of a guy. He always would come up to say hi to me and Ron wherever we were, or I'd go where he was if I saw him first. Just a nice guy.
And a guy who, really think about how crazy that was, that he became a wrestling superstar really without ever cutting a promo.
Right.
I know that other people have done that in yesteryear, but in the more modern era, in the era of television wrestling, when you can remain a top draw and not talk at all and simply just look up and point to the sky, golly, dude, what a character.
Yeah, what a character and what a great performer. He was just a great performer. He was safe in what he did. He did some crazy, crazy stuff, but it all somehow made sense in the match. He was a good draw, just like his uncle. He was a great draw. His uncle didn't want him to do anything high flying, wouldn't let him do any of it. Trained him like an old school wrestler, wouldn't let him do any of the hardcore stuff. And I guess the first trip to Japan together, he goes, all that stuff I told you, forget about it. He told him, do it, everything that you've been doing when I'm not watching, because his uncle knew what he was doing.
I love it. I can't wait for us to talk a little bit about him in the future. Be sure to check us out, podcastheatwrestling.com. We'll be hooking up tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern, and we're going to try to do justice and pay homage to one of the all-time greats who maybe didn't get his just due, and, well, we're going to try to correct that. Try to give the man some flowers. Another underrated performer is our topic today, John. We're going to be talking about all things Fit Finlay. And I think you even mentioned that he might actually have been the greatest heel you've ever seen. Can you give us some context on that?
Yeah, I was thinking about it today about the greatest heels. It's a lot of fun to put your, top four, your Mount Rushmore of heels together, as if, putting a bunch of half of dead guys that half of them own slaves onto stolen rock of Native American land somehow translates into great wrestlers. I'm not sure how that works, but that was a shout out for Gerald Briscoe because he loves bashing Mount Rushmore, and I love Mr. Briscoe. So I've always thought that you had Yusef Ismail was probably one of the greatest first heel of all time, and then you had Gorgeous George, then Blassie and Piper. I think Fit Finlay fits into that category, and none of them were better. I never got to work with Blassie. I met Freddie, but I never got to work with him. Never got to work, obviously, with George or Yusef Ismail. Both passed away long before I was born. But Finlay, to me, I think could be. I don't know anybody better. Could be the greatest heel of all time. And there ain't a doubt in my mind. I saw him. I saw him day after day, night after night. I saw him in the ring. I saw the way he acted around fans. He could be the greatest heel of all time. And if he's not, there's nobody better. There may be people that have tied with him. Nobody's better.
Let's talk a little bit about what made him so great. I mean, I think Fit's dad was an Irish wrestling coach. Is that the way you understand it?
That's right. Irish national wrestling coach, real tough guy, just typical old, Irish tough guy. You see these old hard guys, as they called them, back in the UK and Ireland. And he was one of those guys. He trained Dave up in that, the catch style, the wrestling style, all of that. A lot of political things. It was a tough world growing up when they grew up there in Northern Ireland. In fact, Finlay was in Europe wrestling. It may have been for Brian Dix or Oleg. I'm not sure who it was. I didn't know those guys. I just met some of them. I didn't work for them. I worked mainly in Europe, mainland Europe, not the UK. And they're going to put an Irish flag up. He said, man, somebody in my family could get killed with that. You can't put that up on TV. And they didn't understand the difference. And he goes, you have to fly the Northern Ireland flag. He goes, there's a real problem here. So he grew up in that political maelstrom of, problems between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
We're helping people save money at SaveWithConrad.com. And with all the economic turmoil going on the last few weeks and all the uncertainty it brings, here's one thing that is certain. Your home is still worth more than what you paid for it. According to the Zillow Home Value Index, the value of your home is still going up year over year, which means you're most likely sitting on untapped equity. Did you purchase your home or refinance it a few years back and got one of those really low COVID interest rates, and now maybe you're worried about giving it up? Well, here's something to think about. While the interest on your mortgage payment is low, the interest you're paying on your credit card balances is most likely wiping out those savings and then some. So what's more important, clinging on to that low rate or saving money each month? Let's talk about using the equity you've built up in your home and rolling all that debt into one lower monthly payment. Someone who just did that was our man Andrew, a maintenance worker in Tennessee. He needed to pay off some debt, and he needed to get a new roof and some new floors for his home. So instead of taking out more debt to do these upgrades, he came to SaveWithConrad.com to use the equity he's built up in his home and do a refinance. SaveWithConrad.com helped him accomplish all of those upgrades he wanted on his home. He paid off his debt, and now he's saving over $400 a month. He even got to skip his next 2 house payments. And you can do it too. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com and let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no cost and no obligation. And if we can't help you save some money today, we won't waste your time. It doesn't cost a thing to look, and you've got nothing to lose except some crazy high interest rates on those credit cards. You know you can do better. Start saving money today for your family with my family at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender.